So, in the beginning of the film, we see a woman walking through deserted fields on a terrifying night. Suddenly, an old man kidnaps her. The woman begs for her life, but the man refuses to listen. He didn't want to kill her, but rather, he wanted to achieve something profound with her. Shortly after, the old man's companion arrives, and they begin performing strange rituals, as if they were practicing black magic. During this ritual, they pick up a decker, heat it over a fire, and then cut out the girl's tongue. Strange movements occur, and we learn that they had summoned a demon which has now taken over the girl's body. In other words, they used her body as a vessel to summon the demon. After all this, the old man begins to lead the girl away, using the blade as a sling on the back of his horse. But halfway through, he hears a strange noise, and when he looks back, he realizes that the girl has disappeared. Just then, he hears a whistle blaring from the fields, and he becomes even more frightened than before, as if he knows what the whistle means. Freeing the cart from its horse, he quickly gallops away to escape. But suddenly, the possessed girl appears before him, attacks him, and kills him. The scene cuts, and the next morning, we are introduced to a couple, Sebastian and his wife. They have come from the city to the same village where the strange scenes occurred the night before. Sebastian had come for his father's funeral, and upon entering, we learn that Sebastian's father was the one who performed the ritual on the girl the night before. Sebastian was deeply attached to his father, which is why his death deeply saddened him. It was already difficult for him to handle himself, as his daughter had passed away just days earlier. Sebastian's wife, Nicole, blames herself for her daughter's death, which is why she remains depressed to this day. Sebastian explains to his wife that they must remain strong, as they still have to support their mother. While Sebastian was supporting his mother, he noticed a strange woman standing near his father. Her standing was unusual. She began performing a strange ritual over Sebastian's father's coffin. Sebastian witnesses this, but ignores it for the time being. Then, the next day, after the funeral, we see them having dinner. Sebastian tells his mother that she should come to the city with them. But Sebastian's mother refuses. They had inherited a large farm. They had inherited their property and were unwilling to give up their large estate, which was respected by everyone in the surrounding villages. For now, Sebastian's mother had many issues to resolve, and she began telling Sebastian about them. For example, some strange people used to live across the river from their village. Sebastian knew about them, and he considered them a cult because they performed strange rituals to summon demons and claimed to be able to summon and speak to the dead. Because of this cult, many people were afraid to approach their farm, and their farm was unable to grow. Sebastian's mother wanted to get rid of them, and that wasn't easy. For now, they left it there and went asleep. Nicole woke up in the middle of the night to a strange noise. Going outside, she saw that Sebastian's father's dog was strangely restless and crying. Nicole thought it must be upset by the loss of its owner, so he started petting it. Just then, she spotted a masher outside. She was perplexed as to who could have brought such a masher at this time of night. When she went outside, she discovered that the same woman we saw performing rituals with the old man in the first scene and also doing something with the old man's body in the second scene was there, moving a mannequin while performing some ritual. She angrily told Nicole to leave, but Nicole refused. Instead, she took her dog for a walk in the fields, and then she heard the same whistle that was heard in the first scene of the movie, which we know is the sound of death. Hearing this whistle, the dog ran into the fields. He runs away. When Nicole goes in to retrieve him, she sees a terrifying figure standing in the fields, his eyes glowing. Nicole is frightened and immediately runs away. She had left the dog there at that time. Even when morning came, she realized the dog hadn't returned home. She went looking for him but couldn't find him, and she became extremely confused about where he could have gone. She didn't tell anyone about it. She began exploring Sebastian's house and found a strange book in the library. Upon opening and reading it, she discovered it related to black magic. Before she could read any further or understand why the book was there, Isabel, Sebastian's mother, came and took the book from her. Nicole's memories of the dog began to haunt her again, and she took a horse and set off to search for it in the forest. She couldn't find it anywhere, but there she finds a wooden bridge. While the horse couldn't go, she could. After crossing this bridge, she arrives at the very site of the cult, the same cult that claimed to be able to communicate with the dead. At this very moment, all the members of this cult were gathered there, performing a ritual. This ritual was being performed on a girl. They were trying to summon someone's spirit within her. After heating a knife, they cut off her tongue, and her voice and behavior suddenly changed. It became clear that the girl had become possessed. They were overjoyed, as their ritual was complete. But they didn't know that the spirit they had summoned into her body hadn't arrived. The soul that had entered this body sees Nicole standing in the distance and calls her Mom. Nicole believes that his daughter's soul has now entered that body. When the members of the cult look in the same direction as the girl, they see Nicole. They start running after her, and Nicole, desperate to save her life, also runs away at full speed. But upon crossing the bridge, he discovers that the horse he had tied there has disappeared. We see that the horse has returned to its place, and Sebastian, seeing the horse coming alone, understands that his wife is in danger. So, he and his companions set out to find Nicole. After a long search, Nicole is finally found at midnight. Upon returning home, they discover that Sebastian's mother was also very upset and hadn't eaten yet. They sit down at the dinner table, and Sebastian's mom tells Nicole not to do anything like this again. Sebastian's dad died because of a similar carelessness. He too would go out into the village at night, and I'm sure the same cult members are behind his death. At this point, Sebastian also comes and says, I also think the cult members are up to something, because animals are disappearing from our rents day by day. Although these people were saying these things to Nicole, Nicole didn't listen. Her mind was filled with memories of the afternoon, when the girl called her Mom. She felt it was definitely her daughter trying to contact Nicole through that body. Therefore, she decides to go and meet the woman she saw performing the ritual that night. We learn this woman's name is Petra. Nicole already knew that Petra was a witch, a magician, and capable of anything. She told her everything that had happened in the forest, how the girl had called her Mom, and now she wanted to call her daughter. But she said, I can't do that. Even though I worship the same God, Scott, who is worshipped by the people in that cult. But any ritual I perform these days could be extremely dangerous, because there's a free entity outside, Whistler, who is trying to take over someone's body. If we perform such a ritual now, that evil entity, Whistler, will enter that body, and everything will go wrong. Petra knew that Nicole wouldn't come near her right away. She would definitely have someone perform the ritual. That's why she gives her a protective thread. Afterward, Nicole returns home and discusses everything with her husband. She tells him that she wants to perform a ritual that will allow her to have contact with her daughter once again. But Sebastian refuses to let her do so. Sebastian explains that this is all nonsense. Nothing can be done. Dead people can neither be spoken to nor return to this world. But Nicole disobeys her husband and goes to the Curl the next morning to perform the entire ritual. But the Curl's people also refuse to perform the ritual for her, explaining that the woman they used to call the spirits into the vessel is missing, and the biggest threat is an entity called Whistler, who roams freely in the forest. Regarding Petra, they say that if they perform the ritual at such a time, they believe Whistler's spirit will take over some body. Nicole begins pleading with them. She tells them how Darnie died. Everyone is emotional but still refuses to help. She is now very upset. As she returns, a man follows her who is also the translator for the scrolls. The people in the skirts spoke a different language, not English, and this man was the one who translated everything to Carl. The man tells Nicole, I'm ready to help you, but I'll risk it all on one condition, if you give me $3,000. Nicole agrees, and they seal the deal. Meanwhile, Sebastian, who had gone out to find his wife, finds his dog's body in a very bad condition. His companion tells him, We found your dad's body in a similar bad condition in the forest. This surprises Sebastian, because his mother had told him that his father died simply by falling from a horse. This means there's some mystery here that his mother was hiding. When he returns home and confronts his mother about the truth, she doesn't lie. She says, Yes, your dad died in a very strange way, and I didn't tell you so you wouldn't get upset. Hearing this, Sebastian becomes angry. He begins to believe that everything that happened must have been because of that mistake. Hearing all this, Nicole becomes extremely confused. On the one hand, she seemed to like the members of the cult because they had spoken to Nicole very nicely. One of them had even agreed to help him. But on the other hand, could that cult be responsible for so many deaths? Numerous questions arise in Nicole's mind, and she goes to Petra to find answers. Petra tells her, No, the cult is not responsible for anyone's deaths. The culprit behind all the deaths and accidents here is Whistler, who roams freely in this forest. Who was Whistler, and why was he harassing everyone? When Nicola asks Petros this question, Petros reveals that Whistler was once just a normal human being, a hunter in the forest. One day, when he couldn't find any prey, he killed his own father in a fit of rage. He was so ruthless that he then chopped up his father's body and told his mother to cook it. When his tribe learned of this, they slandered him and decided to execute him as punishment, hanging him from a tree. But the boy didn't fall even then. He was whistling, just like the whistle sound we hear before every death. This is actually the spirit of that same boy, who now seeks revenge by killing everyone. Yes, one thing is certainly true. Whistler's spirit was summoned here by none other than the members of that cult, so they could scare the people of the surrounding villages away and take over the village. It's not that Sebastian and his mom were right. If all this was happening because of Whistler, then Whistler was also called by the cult. So the cult was responsible for all this. But despite all this, Nicole doesn't misunderstand the cult members and, out of love for her daughter, decides to go to them again the next day. On the way, she meets the girl whose body the spirit had called her mom. The girl explains that all these rituals used to take place in her mother's body, but since her mother's disappearance, they have been taking place inside her body. Nicole asks her to show her a photo of her mother. When the girl shows her mother's photo, it is revealed that the woman is none other than the woman shown at the beginning of the movie, on whom Sebastian's father performed the ritual. She is still not dead, but openly roaming around the same village in a state of unconsciousness. We witness this. She enters Sebastian's rancher and attacks and kills numerous animals. Meanwhile, Sebastian is away planning to eliminate the cult's members. He cuts off the cult's electricity and also cuts the bridge connecting the village to the cult's village, unaware that his own wife is currently on the cult's side. And if the bridge is now broken, how will she return? Meanwhile, Petra, when Sebastian's mother tells her that many animals are dying because of the rancher, decides to kill the woman she performed the ritual on that day. She knows that she possesses Whistler's soul. Meanwhile, the people of the tomorrow, at Nicole's behest, begin their ritual, and the process of summoning Denny begins within the girl. As soon as their ritual is over, something horrific happens. Instead of Danny's soul, a terrifying demonic spirit enters the girl. And here, the twist is revealed. The spirit belongs to none other than Whistler. While Petra had killed the girl's mother to kill Whistler, Whistler had now left her body and entered the girl's body, as the ritual was being conducted to summon the spirit, and he had taken advantage of this. Suddenly, the girl disappears, leaving the group extremely worried because the ritual was being conducted without the cult's permission. Only a few members of the cult were supporting Nicole, and they too are deeply disturbed. The group goes inside the house to search for the girl, and they hear the same whistle Nicole had heard. Consequently, she flees with her companion. Meanwhile, we are shown that the posse girl had now killed her own father, just as Nicole was about to cross Cal's village and reach her village. She discovered that the bridge had been destroyed by Sebastian. She needed to save her life, so she immediately jumped into the river to return home. When Sebastian saw Nicole in a bad state, Sebastian suspected the cult had done something bad to her. He set out to kill them. Nicole kept interrupting Nicole without listening to him, and he became fed up. Then, she went to Sebastian's mother and told her everything. She explained that the cult wasn't wrong. It was actually an entity called Whistler, which they had accidentally summoned, who was invading everyone's bodies and causing all this chaos. She told him that they had to stop everything somehow. On the other side, we were shown Petra. She was now burning the corpse she had summoned Whistler to, believing that Whistler had now left the body and should be destroyed. Whistler would also be destroyed with it, but all of this was just her imagination. Whistler was in another body. While Isabel and Nicole were talking, they heard the same whistle. They both panicked and immediately ran to the car. Nicole started the car, but before Isabel could even get in, Whistler attacked her and brutally killed her. Nicole ignored everything and quickly drove to Petra's house. There, she found the same decker with which the entire ritual had been performed. She picked up the decker, and at that moment, Petra arrived and said, "Don't take it. I've sent Whistler back with great difficulty, and if he comes back now, it will be a big problem. All this trouble happened earlier because of your father-in-law." Hearing this, Nicole receives another shock. Patra says, "Yes, I lied to you earlier, saying Whistler was called by the cult. Actually, Whistler was called by your father-in-law to drive the cultists away. And because I was also involved in all this, the blame wouldn't have fallen on me. That's why I lied, but now that I've fixed everything, I can tell the truth. I killed the woman who possessed Whistler, and now Whistler won't bother anyone." Hearing this story, Nicole began to understand why Whistler had possessed the girl, because she was his daughter. Nicole now felt guilty, having killed his own daughter, and now another girl's life was in danger because if she hadn't performed the ritual, that girl's life wouldn't have been in danger. She started crying. She had told Petra the whole story. She asked Petra, "How can I fix everything?" Petra said, "There's only one way. You have to kill that girl. Only then will Whistler come out of her body." But Nicole wasn't ready to take another girl's life. She said, "Perform a ritual on me so that Whistler enters my body and then you kill me." Meanwhile, we are shown the possessed girl, possessed by Whistler. She attacks all of Sebastian's companions in the forest, killing them and hanging them upside down from trees. Then she finally attacks Sebastian as well, possessing him and hanging him upside down from a tree. But before she kills Sebastian, the ritual begins, summoning Whistler within Nicole. Patra didn't want Nicole to die. She wanted the girl to die because she, too, disliked the cult. That's why she cleverly summons Whistler and imprisons him in a prison. But Nicole, unwilling to let a child die because of her, kills Petra and begins the ritual herself. Before the ritual was complete, Sebastian, having freed himself, arrives and points a gun at the girl, intending to kill her. Nicole stops him, then quickly retreats into a room. She lights several fires around herself and finally completes the ritual by cutting off her tongue with a wick. As a result, Whistler leaves the girl's body and enters Nicole's. Nicole intends to burn himself to death along with Whistler, but Sebastian arrives just in time and saves Nicole's life. We learn that Whistler was unable to fully enter Nicole's body because Nicole was wearing a safety thread, given to him by Petra. After leaving one body, Whistler couldn't return to another, and he couldn't fully enter Nicole's body. This is why Whistler is no longer able to possess any body and is freed. The villagers try to revive Nicole, but she doesn't regain consciousness for a long time. We are shown that while unconscious, she was meeting her daughter. She embraces her daughter, apologizes, and all her guilt begins to wash away. After regaining consciousness, Nicole feels better. She quickly embraces the girl whose life she had endangered. Finally, everything is all right. Nicole and Sebastian decide to adopt the girl as their own daughter, as her mother and father were killed because of them. Sebastian's misconceptions about the cult being bad are dispelled. Consequently, he begins to treat them well, and we assume the movie has a happy ending. But it doesn't. In the post-credits scene, we see 3 children near a river, one of whom is holding the same weapon used to perform the ritual. In the distance, we hear the sound of the same whistle, revealing that Whistler is nearby and what he plans to do next. The movie ends with this mystery.